Hello, everyone. Hope you're having a good Friday. Um, Again, I saw one person just popped on, so yeah, sorry for technical difficulties. I had started a live on Facebook and it wasn't working for some reason. Um, so here we are. Um, just a note about like times on Friday. So I last week I kind of did it in the evening, and which was great. I liked the flexibility of doing an evening one. It seemed to me more people popped on as well for the live, but my lighting was terrible, especially on the Facebook Live. So it's so much nicer when I have the natural light coming in from my window. Um, I'm going to assume everyone on Facebook can hear me okay. Sorry, I'm messing with my mic. And if you can't, just comment, let me know. So I'll probably, for now, at least until I figure out a better lighting situation, be doing them during the day when the light is good. Um, Today's going to be kind of brief. I need to get going here, pick up my son, and go to a family get together today. So I just have kind of one question, and I have some notes to go through about that, and then if I have time, um, I'll take any follow up questions for that. So, what we're going to be talking about today is how to manage anxiety. Um, and I find this, I was just laughing while I was getting ready for the live because, yeah, it was like a perfect topic for me today. Probably a perfect topic for me most days, let's be honest. But as someone who also struggles with anxiety, um, I just a situation happened. I realized I need to use the tools that I talk about all the time, and for the most part, I'm pretty decent at using those tools. Um, but what happened was I had like a tablet listed on Facebook Marketplace, and someone wanted to come get it. They were supposed to be here at 1 o'clock, and of course, I get a message around 1. Oh, I'm running late. They showed up at 2:30. That is a huge anxiety trigger for me. I am always the person who's on time or will let you know what time I'm going to be there early in most instances. If someone says they're going to be there at a certain time and they're not, or they don't give me a time, like if they say I'm running late but they still don't have like an estimated time for me, my anxiety is, and it's just interesting. And also I think I'll kind of use that today for examples of how to use some of these coping skills that I'm going to talk about and how to work through anxiety and kind of lessen our generalized anxiety. So, just to be clear, yeah, I'll be talking mostly about generalized anxiety today. Let me pull up my notes here. So, yeah, while I'm pulling up my notes, if anyone who's watching, if you don't mind just, saying, yes, I deal with anxiety in the comments, or yeah, I totally relate. Um, know that it's public, so anyone can see your comment. But if you kind of want to maybe share briefly what something that makes you really anxious. So I want to also start out with a little disclaimer that I'm not a lot. So a lot of this stuff can apply to social anxiety, and some of it can apply to other anxiety disorders. But for the most part, some of the things I'll be talking about today, um, some of it won't apply to things like OCD related anxiety. That's definitely kind of a different ball game because some of the stuff we're going to talk about, like um, behaviors that lessen your anxiety, that can be way different in OCD because behaviors can be obsessive, compulsive, and maybe increase anxiety. So that's kind of a whole other area, and something I'm really not, I don't have any clinical, well, really any major clinical experience with OCD or treating OCD. So that's my disclaimer. Um, if it's OCD related anxiety, um, that's definitely something for a more uh, a clinician who's experienced in that and can assess for that and can really work with those specific anxieties. So that being said, anxiety kind of comes in two different categories of symptoms. Um, and the first one is our cognition. So that's like all the thoughts that we have, all the anxious thoughts that we have. Um, and sometimes we're not even super aware of what maybe some of the thoughts are because we're used to just having those feelings, thoughts, emotions, everything kind of, when it's anxiety, it's going really fast. Like we have our racing thoughts, and so part of the struggle is slowing down and figuring out what some of those underlying thoughts are, or what's going on cognitively. And then the other part that we have with anxiety is somatic symptoms. So anxiety, also depression, but anxiety manifests itself in physical symptoms because what's happening in the body is it can be triggered either somatically or cognitively, but what's happening is our body and our mind are sensing threat. Um, so our cognitions are going about how do we fix this? How do we get out of this situation? How do we, all those kind of things. And our body is telling us, you're in danger. This is not safe. Excuse me. You need to get out of this situation. You need to fix this situation. So that goes into our body, and that can look different for each person. There's some people who most of their anxiety is somatic, so they don't even really know why they feel that way or what the thoughts are before we work on it in therapy, because there are thoughts, but it's more somaticizing the anxiety. So stomach aches, headaches, muscle tension, heart racing, breathing faster, restlessness, feeling like you need to be doing something, and yeah. So those are the two things that we're looking at when it comes to anxiety. And lessening anxiety is working on both of those factors. So, we may start in different places, but for the most part, when we're trying to lower anxiety, we're working with both of those things. We're trying to lower somatic symptoms, we're trying to lower reactivity in general, and we're trying to work on the cognitions that are going on in those situations. So, understanding the anxiety cycle. So there's a cycle to anxiety. And generally, the cycle is, and this can look a little more elaborate or a little bit different in different people, but in general, the cycle is you worry, or you feel anxious, you avoid the anxiety-provoking situation, or you avoid dealing with the anxiety, and then it increases your anxiety. So we can think of this in the situation of one that most people have, I would say, or a lot of people have, is speaking in public or giving a presentation, right? So we were worried about it. We really, really worry about it, and then we avoid speaking in public. We avoid giving presentations. We avoid getting up and talking in front of a room full of people. And by doing that, by avoiding that, we're actually increasing our anxiety. Because we're giving our brain and our body evidence that that is a situation that we should avoid, that is scary, that is dangerous. In the case of public speaking, it's the danger of probably for most people, others judging them or thinking bad about them. If you know, so by avoiding that, we aren't giving our brain and our body the experience of going through that and figuring out that it's not as bad as it seems. And I'll say a quick note that a lot of the times the cognitions and the body sensations about these things happen when they start when we're very young, because we went through something that taught us that that was a dangerous situation. So for people who, I'm not saying everybody, but a lot of the times for people who are scared of speaking in front of people or giving presentations, something embarrassing happened in front of a room full of people when you were young, maybe in school, or you were, like something publicly happened where you felt shamed or embarrassed. So anyone who's watching, drop a little comment if you can kind of relate to that, or if that is something that maybe you deal with. So yeah, we're confirming to our minds that we should have avoided that. When breaking out of that cycle involves exposure, and we'll talk a little bit about that in a bit. So going into the cognitions, there's a couple of different approaches that I use with clients in therapy to start to untangle some of those anxious thoughts and what are some of the cognitions behind our anxiety, and then techniques we can use to work on those and change those. So at first it's kind of learning to understand and start to identify what some of those anxious thoughts are. So one of the first homework assignments I give a lot of the times for clients is to take a moment when they're really anxious and just start writing down every single thing that goes through their mind at that moment. And I know this can be really hard when we're out and about. You don't have a pen and paper with you, but we have our phones with us. Like, I don't know who doesn't have their phone with them at all times. And so I tell people there are two ways. If you like to write things out, get like a note-taking app on your phone. If you do video, like if you use just recording a video on your phone, just record yourself, or record your voice with a voice recording app. And I just tell them to just start talking out their anxiety. So today it might have been like, I'm so frustrated. Like, I gotta sit around and wait for this lady. Like, I have other things I could be doing, and I want to get on with my day, and I'm sitting here waiting for this person, but I also really need the money for this item that I'm going to sell, like I could use it. And just start processing all of that. And then you have it. You can take it to your therapist. You can go back to it later, and you can untangle, start to untangle what some of that stuff is. Um, and then once we can untangle like what those thoughts are, we can start to go down to what the core beliefs underneath those thoughts are. Because those thoughts come typically from core beliefs. So I'm trying to think like what would some of my core beliefs for that anxiety for me be. One of them is probably I'm not in control of this situation. I'm being super honest. That's probably one of the core beliefs for me that really it's ramping up my anxiety. I feel like when I'm on time, when other people are on time, that kind of stuff, that I'm in control. And I can start working on that core belief and how that causes me anxiety, and how I can start to change some of the thoughts and the beliefs and the way I operate in the world to lessen my anxiety. So two different methods. Once we kind of understand what the thoughts are and what the core beliefs are, I tend to typically, for thoughts, for cognition, and we'll get into somatics here in a bit, but for thoughts and cognition, CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy, or cognitive behavioral techniques are really helpful. And then another one is called cognitive diffusion, and it is part of action and commitment therapy. It's probably part of other therapies too, but I learned it through action and commitment therapy, where one of the core methods is cognitive diffusion. The others are commitment to change and action, like action to those commitments. So some CBT tricks that you can use for challenging your anxious thoughts are, and these are really great to use in the moment. So say I'm really, really, really anxious about an upcoming presentation. I've looked at what some of my cognitions are, like what am I worried about? And then what I can do is start to ask myself these questions. First, what is the worst thing that could happen in this situation? So if I go and give a presentation, what's the worst thing that could happen? Right? Probably in my mind, it's everyone's going to laugh at me. Or I'm going to say something really stupid and everyone's just going to be staring at me like, what is this chick talking about? And then I write that down. And then I write down what is the best thing that could happen. So what's the best possible scenario going into this? And that is, let's say I give an awesome presentation, everyone loves it, I get a standing ovation, and people come up to me after and they want to talk to me. And then I write that down. And then I write down what is the most likely thing to happen. And this is where you really need to challenge yourself. Draw on past experiences, draw on other people's experiences, think about everyone that you've watched give a presentation. What's the most likely thing to happen? Most likely thing to happen is, I'm thinking, probably I will be as awkward as I am right now, which is, I feel medium awkward. But and it's going to be fine. I'm going to present some good information. People are going to maybe take something away or not, and then everyone's going to go on with their day. Like, it's not going to be that big of a deal. And I write that down. And then I think, then I write down what is the worst that could happen. If the worst outcome came true, would it still matter in 1 week? Write down my thoughts on that. in 1 month is it going to matter? And in a year from now. So if I say something really stupid and everyone laughs at me, what is the outcome going to be in a week, a month, and a year from now? In a week, I might still be feeling bad and being like, ugh, can't believe I said that, you know, and be feeling down. In a month, like I'm probably going to be pretty over it in a month. It might still replay in my mind. I might want to do some work on getting over what happened because it probably ranked up my anxiety a little bit more about giving presentations if I got laughed at. In a year, it's probably not going to matter all that much, especially if I can do what I'm going to talk about in a little bit, which is exposure. So exposing myself to giving more presentations, as an example. And the other thing, and then after you do all that, you go through and kind of identify what are some of the rational thoughts that I had about that situation, and what are some of the irrational thoughts that I had about that. And then the other thing that I like to use is cognitive diffusion. And this, it seems really simple, but once you kind of get used to doing it for yourself, I've had some clients really love this. So cognitive diffusion is basically making the thoughts that you have their own entity, right? So a lot of times our thoughts are in our head and we feel like our thoughts are us. They're a part of us. So if we think, I'm really awkward in public, or I'm really awkward in front of groups of people, then we kind of take that on and believe those things that we're saying to ourselves. And cognitive diffusion starts to separate your thoughts from you. And so we can recognize that we have thoughts that go through our mind that don't mean anything. They don't apply to us. They're from the past. They're things other people have said to us. They're beliefs that other people have given to us. And they don't have to be us. So there's lots of different ways, and you can probably look up like activities and such online for cognitive diffusion. And I'm going to also try to post a ton of resources for like anxiety worksheets and stuff that deal with all the things that I'm talking about today. So let me know if there's any like specific part of this that I'm talking about that you're interested in, and I will do my best to find a resource, but I'm going to be posting some. But I usually have my clients use clouds. So visualizing when you have that thought that it's a cloud, and it's in the cloud, or a feeling, it can be a feeling, and you're just watching it float by, right? So I'm so awkward in front of people. It's just a thought, a thought that I had, right? And I watch it float by. That can help lessen your anxiety anyway, because it's a visualization technique and you're kind of being mindful. You're taking yourself out of the anxious feelings in your body, and you are doing a different activity. Some people will also use like a train visualization, like each thought or feeling is on a car of a train. I'm trying to think of another one. I don't think yeah. I mean, I think those are the two main ones. My clients have seemed to like the cloud so far. And the other one, which I kind of talked about in the beginning, is just getting it all out. And that's kind of cognitive diffusion as well. It's just, I tell my clients, if you are really cognitively anxious, it's really good to have a place for all of that to go. So it could be a journal that you keep. Like some people, it's really helpful to sit down in the end of the evening and just write out all those thoughts. And they don't have to be I think people get caught up on journaling and they're like, oh, I need to write about how my day went, or I need to write uh, sentences and paragraphs. It can be words, it can be a single thought and just lists. Just getting it all out. I've had clients leave um, voice voice message on their phone, like I said, videos to themselves, just talking it out. Because we don't always have someone there. We don't feel comfortable like talking it out with someone, and sometimes it can just feel good to let it out, get it out of our brain. I'm gonna have to kind of hurry here, so I'm gonna apologize, guys. Um, so for somatic feelings of anxiety, it's really important to start understanding what are the physical sensations of your anxiety. So it's very personalized to you. I can also, if you're interested, post a resource below of all the body sensations that could be anxiety, and you can just like circle them and start to try to notice in your body when you're feeling anxious and what that feels like in your body. Um, and starting to, link your cognitive worries with your body sensations and vice versa. Starting to identify behaviors that tend to lessen your anxiety. Like I said, not necessarily the case with OCD type anxiety. But in generalized anxiety, if you have behaviors that lessen your anxiety, those are absolutely important to have in your toolbox. And then just in general, working to downregulate your nervous system. So this can be in the moment when you're feeling really anxious, knowing what tools you can use to signal to your body that you're safe and you're not in danger. But in also having things that you do in your daily routine that tend to downregulate you, tend to signal safety to your body. So some notes about exposure. Exposure is when someone exposes themselves to the source of their anxiety, and they can manage it within acceptable ways. So it's creating evidence within your brain and your body that your fears are not founded, that it's not a dangerous situation. And this is, depending on what the anxiety is, it's something that generally we need to work up to. So in exposure, we usually create what we call a fear hierarchy. And the idea is that we identify what is the most anxiety provoking situation, and then what are some things on that hierarchy that would be less anxiety provoking. So one example, well, I'll just stick with my example of speaking in groups or speaking in public. It may look like the most anxiety provoking is the standing in front of a room, like a presentation room full of people and giving a presentation. And somewhere in a little bit down from that might be talking in front of a few of your family members, right? Like gathering some of your family members together and giving your presentation to them. And the next step up might be like giving the presentation to a group of your classmates that you feel comfortable with, and that can be applied to all different other kinds of anxieties. It can be really helpful for kids who might be anxious about going to school, and we also use it in trauma work because there's avoidance there. So I can also post that, like what a printable fear hierarchy that you could create. And then we also tend to use the SUD scale, which is the 0 to 100, 0 being the least anxiety, 0 anxiety, 100 being I feel like I could die. My anxiety is so high, I've lost control. And we tend to give those the fear, man, I cannot, the fear hierarchy a SUDS rating of what that might be, and then teaching clients how to use this SUD scale, which you can find on my website, sevenstonesmentalhealth.com, the SUD scale and how to gauge how they're doing in a situation and how they're lessening their anxiety about a situation. So things you can do in the moment or in general to start lessening your anxiety are there's progressive muscle relaxation, and I will leave resources for that if anyone's interested. Deep breathing exercises, I'll leave information about that. And let me know in the comments if anyone is interested in maybe having some live sessions where I go through some of these things with you, like breathing exercises, progressive muscle relaxation. We could have a live for each one of those. Mindfulness. So there's a few different mindfulness techniques that I like to teach, and you can find tons of them online. But these are great for in the moment when you're feeling super, super anxious. You can just do these. Sometimes people don't even know that you're doing them. One is 5 senses. So you find something for each 5 of your senses. So for smell, I would try to find something that smells really calming to me. Taste, I might bring a candy with me to my presentation. Sight, so I might look around the room or find things that make me kind of feel calm, feel tranquil. Hearing, I might put in my earbuds and listen to some calming music and so on. And touch, I might have some fidgets that I bring with me places to lessen my anxiety. And kind of going through that checklist when you're feeling really anxious, like here are the things that I can do to let my body know that I'm safe. Identifying colors. So I tell my clients, like, feeling really anxious in a situation, pick a color and then look around the room and find 5 to 6 things that are that color. So purple's a good one because it's kind of a little bit harder sometimes to find purple. I found a picture frame, I found a candle holder, I found a shirt. I have a colorful room, I guess. But yeah, just pick a color, and that kind of gets your mind, it kind of gets you out of your body, that panicky feeling, and it gets your mind focused on something else. And then grounding exercises, tons of those you can find online. That could be feeling the carpet underneath my feet right now, touching the dream catcher behind me, rubbing my hands on the couch. Can kind of, you're reminding yourself that you're okay, your physical surroundings are safe, tactilely. You're focusing on tactiles rather than the anxiety. And then before I go, I think I can do it real quickly with you guys. I wanted to show you guys the basic exercise, which was developed by Stanley Rosenberg. It's a polyvagal exercise, so it helps calm the vagus nerve, which signals to your brain and your body, I am safe. I am not in a dangerous situation right now. Because if you were in a dangerous situation, the idea is that you wouldn't be able to do this exercise or any of the other polyvagal exercises, but also you're stimulating the vagus nerve. So I'll take you guys through that real quick. Thought that would be kind of neat because it's actually something that I use quite frequently. Um, I if I'm feeling really, really super anxious about something, this is something I can do to down-regulate myself pretty quickly and just be in a little bit calmer space. So the first thing you do is interlock your fingers. Okay? So your hands are like this. And then you want to put it behind your head. And it's going to go, your thumbs are going to kind of touch down to the base of your neck. And you're going to just cradle your head in your palms. So it's not super important that your hands be in a specific place, but if you're cradling them, you're going to be in about the right spot. So this looks kind of weird. So it's something you can maybe take a bathroom break and go do in private office, private space. You can do it laying down, you can do it sitting in a chair. I suggest being sitting or laying down because it can, for some people, it can make you feel kind of off center at first. And I will say, for some people, the sensation afterwards is something they need to work through. So if your anxiety is very high when you are almost in too calm of a state, maybe not do this. Maybe do this with your therapist. But so cradle your head in your hands. And what we're going to do is look. You're not going to move your head, but you're going to look to one of your elbows. So I'm going to look to my right elbow. And I just hold it there and kind of relax back into my hands. And eventually, I did it pretty quickly, but eventually you'll want to yawn or sigh or take a deep breath. And that is definitely a good sign that it's working. You can either switch to the other side after you yawn or take a deep breath or sigh, but I like to just kind of hang out still on one side for about a minute. Come back to center. So I'm talking about, you can kind of feel a little bit like off center. So take a moment to get your bearings again. And once you feel ready, we do the other side. So look at your elbow without moving your head. And you'll eventually feel a sigh or a deep breath or a yawn. And whenever you're ready, if you want to wait a little bit or you feel ready, you come back to center. Let yourself get your bearings again. Man, I feel like that one kind of made my sinuses release. Not even joking. Crazy. So yeah, it's super, super simple. I already feel calmer. So you guys let me know in the comments if you tried that and how that felt for you. I'm kind of just checking to see if anyone's left a comment on Facebook or Instagram. And I'll cut that part um, so that I can also just upload that exercise for you guys so you can kind of reference it when you want. That is an awesome exercise to do when you're feeling super, super anxious and you need to really get yourself back to a place of feeling calm. You'll notice like you're probably breathing slower and your heart rate has slowed down a little bit and you just feel less on edge. So, really interested to hear if you want to message me. That's awesome. Let me know if you tried it and what your thoughts were on doing that exercise. If you joined, I saw a couple people on Instagram join in the middle of the exercise, so I'll try to get that uploaded as soon as possible so you guys could try it and let me know what you think. So I think that's all my notes for today about skills for coping with anxiety. Um, yeah, let me know if you guys have any follow-up questions, any resources you want me to help you get access to. And I gotta go pick up my son, so I gotta run. But I hope y'all have a great Friday, and I'll see you next Friday. Bye.